What? So basically, here's the main deal. If you have decimals and you're dividing them, the main thing is the divisor cannot have a decimal. So what do? If it has a decimal, you change it. Oh, by the way, for this one, you have to be using the standard algorithm. You cannot be using partial quotients, or else this method that I'm teaching you will not work. So before you even start solving, the main thing to remember is that you have to have no decimal in the divisor, which is this number outside of the house. Ugh. And the other places, you can't have a decimal as a quotient, and you can have a decimal for the dividend. Once that is all set up correctly, you may solve. Here's your first example. As I said, we cannot have a decimal in the divisor, so we are going to change it. And we went over this last week. Here's how it works. Here's the problem. Notice it says, this is not solving, this is creating an equivalent division problem. Here's how we do it. One way is, you take the divisor and you change it to a whole number by moving the decimal point however many spaces to the right to where it becomes a whole number. In this case, you only need to move it one space. Well, many of you know that if we move it one space to the right on the divisor, we have to move it one space to the right on the dividend. And that means we have 36 9/10 divided by 9. And that means we can rewrite it like this. Voila. And for this segment, I'll show you a picture of my thumb. Basically, if what was just said works for you, you don't need to worry about the next part. But if you like another method to change the problem into a dividable problem, then you can look. Here you go. The other way is to rewrite the division problem with a fraction bar, so it's still 36 9/10 divided by 9/10. And then you use that to multiply both the top and the bottom by 10. Kind of like a ratio table. You multiply both by the same amount. All that does is when you multiply by 10, you shift all the place values that way. So it becomes, I just wrote it wrong. Should have been this. Okay, so 3 69/100 becomes 36 9/10. And then 9/10 becomes 9 because the decimal moves to the right or all the digits shift to the left, one place value. So this goes into the tens place, the 6 goes into the ones place, and the 9 goes into the tenths place. In this case, the 9 goes into the ones place. Either way you want to look at it, it's the same thing. Either the decimal moves to the right or the digits shift up in place value or to the left. But at the end of the day, we have the same thing. We get 36 9/10 divided by 9, which is going to give us the same exact answer as doing 3 69/100 divided by 9/10. They will give us the same answer. The cool thing is, once you've changed the problem, so where there's no decimal in the divisor, the only difference between dividing with decimals and dividing using the long division algorithm with whole numbers is that you just look where the decimal is and you put it right above it on top of the line in the quotient. So you don't have to count digits behind the decimals like in multiplication. All you do is you move the decimal up and then everything else you divide like normal. You kind of pretend the decimal isn't even there, but you just leave it right above where it is in the dividend. So if there was no decimal there, if it was 369, our answer would be 41. But since it's 36.9, our answer is 4.1. Other than that, it's the same thing. Can 9 fit into 3? No, it fits 0 times. Can it fit into 36? Sure it can, 4 times. 9 times 4 is 36. You subtract 36, you're left with 0. You bring down the next digit, which is the 9. Can 9 fit into 9? Oh yeah, 1 time. Boom, minus 9 is 0. But that means there's no remainder. So what happens if there is a remainder? How do we change that into a decimal? This, I'll show you my foot. So, Many of you felt like you don't really know how to divide decimals yet, and that's because we did not teach this one last step. And here it is. The title of the slide says, no more remainders. Here's how this works. If you end up getting a remainder after using all of the digits possible on the dividend, for example, this one has a remainder of 6. There is a way to change this remainder. Instead of putting R6, you can change it into a decimal. And in case you're wondering, you may not change it into a decimal by changing the R into a decimal and just putting 0.6. That does not work. Here's what you do though. Dun 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 dun. Okay, what you do is you just add on a 0. This was not part of the original problem. Notice it is 142 2/10 divided by 12. Well, we're gonna add on a 0. Does it change anything about the value? No, it's just a placeholder, but it is gonna help us find the decimal answer without a remainder. You add on a 0, and then you bring that 0 down like it was the next digit. Instead, you're gonna find how many times 12 fits inside 60, not how many times 12 fits inside 6. So 12 can fit inside 60 exactly 5 times. So 5 groups of 12 is 60, you subtract 60. And for this problem, that's all you need. Once you get that 0, you know you have no remainder. Your answer is 11 and 85/100.